No one ever steps in the same river twice, because it's not the same river and they are not the same person. That is going to be the topic of this episode of Chi Life. Alright, so you might recognize this as some familiar scenery if you have watched the Chi Life channel for a while. I'll turn the other way as well, a bit of glare from the sun there. Maybe I should face this way. I've recorded quite a few of these vlogs on this beach, none recently though. And that is because this is a beach near where I lived for quite some time in Auckland in New Zealand. And I'm back! So this is probably going to be a surprise to quite a few people in New Zealand, perhaps, because they'll see this video before they know that I'm here and possibly after I'm already gone. It's been a short visit and an unusual visit. I'll talk about that a bit more at the end of the video, and it's meant I haven't had a lot of time to catch up with too many people here. So maybe next time, if you're seeing this, you're like, hey, you're in New Zealand, why didn't you come see me? I'll explain later in the vlog. Anyway, for now, this topic, that quote that I mentioned at the start of this video is from Heraclitus. I may or may not be saying that correctly, an old Greek philosopher. And it's about this idea that everything is constantly in change. And this is quite relevant to coming back to somewhere that you've lived for a long time and your experience of it. I've been away from New Zealand now for, it's not a huge amount of time in the scheme of things. It's, I think about 15 months or something, maybe a little longer since I left, and I'm making this brief visit. But it is long enough to have time to think about things. And of course, I've traveled away from New Zealand previously as well. But while I've been traveling over this last little over a year, at various points I've had people ask me, do I miss New Zealand? Do I miss home? That sort of thing. And yeah, giving me a chance to think about that. And of course, there's lots of things that I have missed about New Zealand. I mean, look at this beautiful scenery, and we're into winter now, and it's bright enough and sunny enough that it's a good idea to be wearing sunglasses. There's so much that is wonderful about New Zealand. I might add, in terms of the sunniness, it's like it's probably rained at least 3 times today as well, but we have these patches of sunshine. But at the same time, when I think about that question of, do I miss New Zealand? There's parts of New Zealand that, as I've been traveling, I've missed. And certainly, it would be wonderful to find some of those same things elsewhere in the world. There's some things that I think really that are in New Zealand and they're difficult to find elsewhere. And some of those are really good, positive things. But as to whether I really miss it as a whole, as I've thought about this, and this is something I've told people, I think I miss the New Zealand of probably about 30 years ago. And that doesn't exist anymore because things are constantly in change. And having traveled and having known other people who have traveled and their experiences of going back to their home country or home location, I haven't been too surprised about this. But it has come to the fore for me, this idea that places, people, things, we're all constantly in change. And in many ways, there's no point in longing for what has already passed and what no longer exists. One example of this, the place that I lived, I actually lived there on 3 separate occasions for varying lengths of time, but certainly where I was living immediately before I left New Zealand this time, is no longer there. And now, of course, the location is there on a map, the land is still there, but the facilities there are no longer functioning in the way that they were. In fact, it's just a construction site. So in a very real way, there's nothing to go back to there, even if I wanted to. And while, again, much of New Zealand and much of what makes it a great and beautiful place is still here, there's other things that simply aren't there anymore. And it wouldn't make any sense for me to long too much for something that no longer exists. And I think people who travel a lot get used to this idea, basically. I think people who haven't traveled a lot, because they are changing at the same time as the place where they are and they're not moving, the nature of just how transient things are isn't as obvious to them. And so I think in many ways that's actually one of the positive things that comes from travel. To understand the way that things are constantly changing and we're constantly changing. Now, I guess further related to this, because I'm not suggesting that it's necessarily a good idea to travel all the time. It can be a really nice thing to have a stable base and to change with that place, that place that you've chosen to be. I actually just last night, I did, one of the few people who I have caught up with while I'm here, I did catch up with some friends and we were having dinner. And one of them asked me, because they're asking about different places in the world and what I thought of them and things like that. And they asked me, well, if you were wanting to raise a child or children, where do you think the best place would be for that? And I thought about it for a little while because I hadn't been thinking in particularly those terms. And what came to mind was, at the moment, no one place. Because so much of the world is in a state of flux and change right now, and so much of the world is out of balance and needs to go through a state of change to enter into a more harmonious state. And I think that's certainly the case with New Zealand, Aside from the things that I do really like about New Zealand and still really appreciate and maybe wish I could find more easily elsewhere in the world, there are some quite fundamental things that I'm not so keen on here right now. Let's just pause just a minute. I'm figuring out how to get across this little, it's actually a little, it's the mouth of a river actually, it's quite shallow here. And I'm trying to figure out how to get across this without getting my shoes too wet. So just give me a moment. All right, it looks like I'm going to need to go the long way. That river is always changing, quite appropriate for the topic of this video, including how easy it is to get across without getting your shoes wet. And as it is winter here, I am wearing shoes rather than barefoot. Barefoot wouldn't be a problem. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So in a country like New Zealand, often for people who don't actually live here, they get an idea of it as some kind of paradise. And again, look how beautiful it is here. There are certainly aspects of it that fit that. But like anywhere in the world, there are problems too. And for myself, some of the things, again, so much that I like, but some of the things that I'm not particularly comfortable with relate to the current economic conditions, politics, what's going on there in the country, and most importantly, in many ways, what's going on socially on a society-wide level within the country here. And of course the economics and the politics feed into that. And I guess again, even more important than how things are right now, the general direction that things are heading in. There's a number of things that, just don't sit well with me. Now for other people, they might be fine with them. That's okay. I'm talking about how it is for me. It's very easy as well, particularly if you're traveling to lots of places, to, much like someone not living in New Zealand, get this idea of, oh wow, it's some kind of paradise, to get a surface impression of a place and see all of the good things and not necessarily see the underlying problems. I think that can be a common issue that people have. And I'm well aware that there are all sorts of different problems all over the world right now. The whole world, it seems, is in a state of flux and change. It's out of balance in a way, and there needs to be some significant change to come back into a state of balance and harmony. So how can we deal with this? Different people will deal with it in different ways, and that's okay, and that's healthy. That's healthy. Some people will be quite happy to stay exactly where they are and adapt to the changes that are going on. Other people will look for somewhere that's more to their liking, maybe recognizing that everything's not perfect there, but they're more happy with the balance of what they find there than perhaps where they were. And I think one potential approach could be to, well, actually not be particularly fixed to one place, but to move amongst several places. And a lot more people are doing that these days. They're not necessarily staying anchored in one place. And I think when you do this, there's an ability to recognize and appreciate what's good, while also recognizing what maybe is not so good, what's not working so well within a place, within a culture, within a society, without letting that penetrate into your being too much, in a way. There's a tendency often when we're just in one place and we don't move around, that what's going on around us, in a sense, becomes invisible to us because we're surrounded by it all the time. And because of that, we let that shape us at a deep level and shape our unconscious way of believing, of thinking, of acting, of being in the world. And again, I don't think this necessarily happens for everyone. You can remain in one place and remain quite conscious and aware of what's going on around you and affecting you. But there is a tendency to not recognize fully how much things are affecting you. But if you move between several places, I think there's more of a possibility, or maybe it's easier, to, yes, recognize what's going on and recognize that you are interacting with it in a specific way and remain more conscious and making more clear choices about your interaction rather than just accepting it as a default. And in this time with so much change, so much disharmony around the world, at least in my mind, perhaps that could be the best place to raise a child, to give them that ability or that opportunity to, yes, be involved and connected, but to some extent also be a little bit removed and be an observer of what's going on around them, and so that they can be more conscious and clear about the choices that they're making rather than being unconsciously shaped by what's occurring around them. Now, again, people will have different ideas about this and make different choices and have different possibilities available to them, and that's all fine. That was just my response as I thought about this question. You know, where would be the best place to raise a child right now? It wasn't something I'd been particularly thinking about. But that also makes me think, perhaps for myself, because as I have been traveling around, one of the things I have been doing is looking for somewhere that I would like to be based. That's not in New Zealand, but where maybe there's a balance of what's occurring in that place that fits better for me and where I'm at and what I want to achieve at this stage of my life. And I haven't found that place yet. And I think part of that is because the world is in this state of turmoil right now. And maybe the best thing, at least for a time, is while the world is in such a state of change, to maybe flow with those changes, to maybe, rather than being fixed in one place, actually continue to move around and experience many places without becoming too attached to any of them. Yeah, there could be a different kind of harmony to be found in that, to be allowing myself to move amongst these places without being too anchored, too rooted in just one. I don't think it's something that I want to continue to do forever or anything like that, but maybe that's where I'm at right now. Maybe I'll continue to be mobile for a little while. We'll see. I would also be quite happy to find somewhere where I like the balance of what's available and what's going on, and just be settled there too. Just haven't found it quite yet. All right, so moving on from that, a lot of kind of personal reflections in this vlog. Hopefully that's interesting to some people. I guess maybe some aspects of this are generalizable. Often I try to talk about things that are sort of broadly applicable to people. This seems to be a lot just about what's going on with me, but I guess that's a relevant thing to have in these vlogs sometimes as well. People might be curious what's going on. So about this visit that I've had at the moment and why it's a bit unusual. Essentially, while I've been here in New Zealand, apart from catching up with a very few people, I've essentially been in 3 places, pretty much the whole time I've been here. So one, I've been at my sister's house where I have been staying, thank you to my sister, and also working. I've had a lot of work to do at the moment, running some of the Qigong courses. And then the second location has been visiting my father, who isn't doing so well, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm here, to be able to visit him and spend time with him. So yeah, visiting him at the care facility where he is at the moment. And then the third place has been at my father's old house, sorting out both some of my own belongings that had been stored in his garage, and then also starting the process of sorting out all of his possessions that are in that house, or were in that house as well, because it's actually been really cool. I had thought I'd just make a start on this myself, but at the moment it's been a really unusual thing. All of my sisters and brother have all been here at the same time, and we sort of had to think about this, and no one's identified exactly what the date was that we were last all in one place, but we figured out it's at least 25 years since we've all been in one place at the same time. That's kind of aging me a bit, isn't it? And so this has been a really cool opportunity, both for us to be able to visit our father together, as I think a really nice thing for him at this stage where he's at right now. But we've all been able to collaborate and work together on this process of sorting through physical possessions and belongings and taking care of those as well. But because I've been so busy with that, the family things, and with working, I haven't had much opportunity at all to get out and do typical New Zealand things and see typical New Zealand places. But this is one of those opportunities now, and you're getting to enjoy it with me. Some of this beautiful natural scenery that we have in New Zealand. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I mean, maybe the topic has been interesting. I hope you've enjoyed this beautiful scenery in the background as well. A few potential themes from what I've been going through in terms of sorting things out at my father's house and so on. I think I'll try to record at least another vlog or two while I'm here in New Zealand before I leave, so you might get some more of the scenery as well in some of those. All right, I look forward to seeing you on another vlog soon.